The fluorescent lights of Boston Memorial Hospital buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow across the vinyl floor. Karen Matthews shifted uncomfortably in the molded plastic chair, her lower back protesting after 3 hours of waiting. The sterile smell of disinfectant hung in the air, mingling with the faint scent of hospital coffee from the cup cooling between her hands. Karen checked her phone again. 4:37 p.m. No messages, no calls. She tucked a strand of graying hair behind her ear and surveyed the steady stream of visitors and staff moving through the corridor. Her eyes never strayed far from the double doors leading to the surgical wing. "Mrs. Matthews?" A nurse with kind eyes appeared beside her. "Your daughter's procedure went well. She's in recovery now." Karen exhaled, realizing she'd been holding her breath. "Thank you. When can I see her?" "The doctor will be out shortly with more details," the nurse replied with a practiced smile. "She's doing fine." Nodding gratefully, Karen settled back into her chair. It had been almost 8 months since she'd last seen Alexis in person. 8 months of unanswered texts and declined calls. Their last conversation had ended with slammed doors and words that cut deeper than any scalpel. "You've never supported my choices, Mom. Never. So why start now?" Alexis had shouted, tears streaming down her face. "I don't need your approval or your help." But when the hospital had called this morning, Alexis admitted for emergency appendectomy surgery, Karen hadn't hesitated. She'd called in sick to the accounting firm where she'd worked for the past 20 years, grabbed her purse and driven straight to Boston from her apartment in Providence. The double doors swung open and Karen straightened, her heart racing. A doctor emerged, consulting a chart, followed by a young woman in a hospital gown walking gingerly beside a nurse. Alexis. Her daughter's normally vibrant face looked pale, her chestnut hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but she was upright, talking quietly with the nurse supporting her elbow. Karen stood, her coffee forgotten on the side table. "Alexis," she whispered, too softly to be heard. She took a step forward, hand half raised in greeting. Their eyes met for the briefest moment across the corridor, Alexis's widening slightly in recognition. Then, deliberately, her daughter turned away, continuing her conversation with the nurse as if Karen weren't there at all. They passed within 3 feet of each other. Not a word, not a glance, not even an acknowledgement. Karen stood frozen in place, hand still partially extended, as Alexis and the nurse disappeared around the corner toward the patient rooms. The doctor who had accompanied them approached, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Matthews, I'm Dr. Patel. I performed your daughter's appendectomy." Karen forced herself to focus on the doctor's words as he explained the procedure, the recovery process, the follow-up appointments. She nodded at appropriate intervals, asked the right questions, thanked him for his care. But inside, a familiar hollowness expanded, threatening to consume her. "There was one other matter," Dr. Patel added, glancing at his clipboard. "The insurance information we have on file seems to have some discrepancies. If you could stop by the billing office before you leave, they can sort it out." "Of course," Karen replied automatically. "I'll head there now." As she walked toward the hospital's administrative wing, Karen's phone buzzed with a text message from a number she didn't recognize. "This is Sophia, Alexis's roommate. She left her phone in my car. She's in room 327 if you want to see her." Karen paused, staring at the message. Alexis had made it clear she didn't want to see her. Wasn't it better to respect her wishes, to handle the insurance matter, and then drive back to Providence, leaving Alexis to recover in peace? The billing office door loomed ahead. Through the glass, Karen could see a tired-looking woman typing at a computer. In her mind's eye, she saw Alexis's deliberate avoidance in the hallway, the way her daughter had looked straight through her, as if she were invisible. With a deep breath, Karen pushed open the door to the billing office. She had decisions to make, and not much time to make them. The billing office smelled of printer toner and stale coffee. A middle-aged woman with rectangular glasses glanced up as Karen entered, offering a perfunctory smile. "How can I help you?" she asked, fingers poised over her keyboard. I'm Karen Matthews. My daughter Alexis had an appendectomy today, and the doctor mentioned some insurance discrepancies. The woman nodded. Let me pull that up. Her fingers clattered across the keyboard. Matthews, Alexis. Yes, here we are. Date of birth? March 12th, 1996. Karen replied, the date as familiar as her own birthday. The billing specialist frowned at her screen. I'm showing that she's still on your family insurance plan, but there seems to be a note here about a requested removal. Did you submit paperwork to have her removed? Karen's breath caught. No, I never did. I see. The woman adjusted her glasses. Well, she's still covered under your policy. The procedure should be fully covered after your deductible, which it looks like you've already met for the year. Karen nodded slowly, processing this information. Last December, after their fight, Alexis had sworn she would get her own insurance through her new job at the tech startup. Apparently, that hadn't happened. There's one other thing, the billing specialist continued, scrolling through the file. You have 2 dependents listed on your policy. Karen stiffened. 2? Yes, Alexis Matthews and... She squinted at the screen. Maya Wilson. Is that correct? The name hung in the air between them. Maya Wilson, Alexis's best friend since middle school. The girl who had spent countless weekends at their house, whose parents had divorced when she was 14, leaving her with a father who cared more about his new family than his daughter. That's correct, Karen said quietly. She had added Maya to her insurance 5 years ago when the girl had aged out of state children's coverage and had nowhere else to turn. It had seemed the only decent thing to do at the time. All right then, everything seems to be in order from our end, the billing specialist said, printing out a form. Just sign here to confirm you're the policyholder. Karen signed the document, her signature a practiced curve of blue ink against the stark white paper. She accepted her copy of the form, folded it carefully, and slipped it into her purse. Thank you, she said, rising from her chair. Outside the billing office, Karen checked the time, 5:22 p.m. Visiting hours ended at 8:00. She stood in the hallway, torn between heading to her car or to room 327. The elevator dinged, and a young woman stepped out, balancing a takeout bag and a backpack. Karen recognized her immediately from the photos on Alexis's social media. Sophia, the roommate who had texted her. Mrs. Matthews, Sophia approached uncertainly. I thought that might be you. I'm Sophia Chen, Alexis's roommate. Karen smiled, genuinely pleased to put a face to the name. Thank you for texting me. How did you know I was here? Sophia shifted the backpack higher on her shoulder. Alexis mentioned you might be. She saw you in the hallway earlier. She didn't want to speak to me, Karen said, the words more statement than question. Sophia's expression softened. She's complicated. Stubborn as hell, excuse my language, but she's been having a rough time lately. Is she okay, beyond the appendicitis, I mean? She lost her job last month, budget cuts at the startup. She hasn't told many people. Sophia hesitated. She's been skipping meals, taking on freelance work at night. I'm worried about her, but she won't accept help. The revelation hit Karen like a physical blow. Alexis, unemployed and struggling, too proud to reach out, too angry to ask for help. I brought her some real food, Sophia continued, lifting the takeout bag. Hospital food is the worst. Could you give her something for me? Karen asked suddenly. Sophia nodded. Of course. Karen pulled out the insurance form from her purse, unfolded it and wrote on the back. I never removed you from my insurance. I never would. Room at home is still yours whenever you need it. Love, Mom. She hesitated, then added, P.S. Maya sends her love too. Will you make sure she gets this? Karen asked, handing the folded paper to Sophia. I will, Sophia promised, tucking it carefully into the takeout bag. Are you not going up to see her? Karen shook her head. She needs time. But could you text me later? Let me know how she's doing. Absolutely, Sophia said, her eyes kind. She might not show it, but knowing you came matters to her. As Sophia headed toward the elevators, Karen walked toward the hospital exit, her footsteps echoing against the linoleum floor. The afternoon sun slanted through the glass doors ahead, painting long shadows across the lobby. Her phone buzzed with a new message from her boss asking about tomorrow's client meeting. Real life waiting to resume. She would drive back to Providence tonight, sleep in her too-quiet apartment, return to work tomorrow. But something had shifted. A door left slightly ajar that had been firmly closed this morning. Karen pushed through the hospital doors into the warm evening air, her mind already calculating when she could return to Boston. The visiting hours for tomorrow, the quickest route during rush hour traffic, the possibility, however slim, of reconciliation. Behind her, in room 327, a folded insurance form made its way into her daughter's hands, carrying a message that had nothing to do with deductibles or coverage limits, and everything to do with the kinds of protection that couldn't be quantified on paper. Alexis Matthews leaned back against the stiff hospital pillows, wincing as the movement pulled at her stitches. The television mounted on the wall played some medical drama, with the volume turned low. Ironic background noise for her current situation. "You're a lifesaver," she told Sophia, eagerly accepting the container of pho from the takeout bag. "If I had to eat one more Jell-O cup, I might have lost my mind." Sophia pulled up the visitor's chair, settling in with her own container. "How's the pain?" "Scale of 1 to 10. "A solid 6, Alexis admitted, stirring the aromatic broth. "Better than this morning's 9, though." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the familiar ritual of shared meals, bringing a sense of normalcy to the sterile hospital room. Alexis was halfway through her soup when Sophia reached into the takeout bag again. "Oh, I almost forgot. Someone asked me to give you this." She handed over a folded piece of paper. Alexis recognized the Boston Memorial Hospital letterhead immediately. "My insurance form?" she asked, confused. "Just read it," Sophia said, suddenly very interested in her food. Alexis unfolded the paper, scanning the billing information. Nothing surprising there, just confirmation that her mother's insurance had covered the procedure. She was about to refold it when she noticed the handwriting on the back. Her mother's neat, precise script filled the bottom half of the page. Alexis read the note once, twice, then a third time, her eyes lingering on the postscript. "P.S. Maya sends her love too." "Maya?" she whispered, the name catching in her throat. "What?" Sophia asked, looking up. "My mom. She still has Maya on her insurance." Alexis stared at the paper, her hands trembling slightly. "After everything that happened, after I told her I didn't need her help anymore, she kept Maya on her insurance." Sophia set down her chopsticks. "Maya from your hometown? The one you're always talking about?" Alexis nodded, memories flooding back. Maya Wilson had been her closest friend since 7th grade, the quiet, artistic girl who'd gradually become family. Maya, whose father had remarried and started a new family, leaving her to fend for herself. Maya, who had faced one health crisis after another throughout college, with no safety net of her own. "I didn't know she was still covered," Alexis said softly. "I assumed when I told Mom I was getting my own insurance, she would have removed both of us." The realization settled over her like a weighted blanket. When she'd lost her job at the startup last month, she'd been too proud to tell her mother, too stubborn to admit she'd been wrong about making it completely on her own. She'd been skipping her medication to save money, working freelance jobs until 2 a.m., and eating ramen noodles more often than she cared to admit. All while her insurance, her mother's insurance, had been active the entire time. "Your mum was here all day," Sophia said gently. "She was in the waiting room during your surgery." Alexis closed her eyes, shame washing over her as she remembered walking past her mother in the hallway, deliberately avoiding eye contact. The hurt in her mother's expression had been unmistakable, but Alexis had ignored it, still clinging to the remnants of her anger from their last fight. "I saw her," Alexis admitted. I couldn't face her, not after everything I said." Sophia reached over and squeezed her hand. "She seemed really worried about you." "Did she say anything else?" Alexis asked, her voice small. "Just to text her later to let her know how you're doing." Sophia hesitated. She didn't want to intrude if you weren't ready to see her. The consideration in that gesture, the respect for boundaries despite her mother's obvious concern, made Alexis's throat tighten. She reread the note. "Room at home is still yours whenever you need it." "I need to call Maya," Alexis said suddenly, reaching for her phone before remembering. "Damn it, my phone's still in your car." "Use mine," Sophia offered, passing over her cell. Alexis dialed Maya's number from memory, her heart pounding as the line rang once, twice, 3 times, before a familiar voice answered. "Hello? Maya? It's me. It's Alexis. Lex, why are you calling from this number? Is everything okay?" Alexis took a deep breath. "I'm in the hospital." "What? What happened? Are you okay?" Maya's voice pitched higher with concern. "I'm fine. Just appendicitis. Already had surgery. But Maya, listen, are you still on my mom's insurance?" A pause. "Yeah, she called me after your fight last year and said not to worry, that she wasn't going to remove me regardless of what happened between you two." Another pause. "I thought you knew." Alexis closed her eyes, tears spilling onto her cheeks. No, I didn't know. Your mom checks in on me every few weeks." Maya continued, her voice softening. "She came to my art show last month, bought that landscape piece I'd been working on forever." The revelation landed like a stone in still water, ripples of understanding spreading outward. While Alexis had been stubbornly maintaining her distance, her mother had been quietly, steadfastly present in Maya's life, honoring a commitment she'd made years ago to look after both of them. "I should have told you," Maya said. "I just thought, I didn't want to get in the middle." "It's not your fault," Alexis assured her, wiping away tears. "I've been an idiot." After promising to call again tomorrow with more details, Alexis handed the phone back to Sophia. The hospital room felt different now, the sterile walls less confining, the mechanical beeps of monitoring equipment less intrusive. "She kept Maya on her insurance," Alexis repeated, the significance of this fact growing with each passing moment. "Even after I told her I didn't need her anymore." Sophia smiled. "Sounds like a pretty good mom to me." "She is," Alexis whispered, the admission breaking through months of stubborn silence. "She really is." Later that evening, after Sophia had gone home and the night nurse had completed her rounds, Alexis lay awake in the darkened room. The pain medication was making her drowsy, but her mind refused to quiet. She thought about her mother, sitting for hours in those uncomfortable waiting room chairs, about Maya's revelation that Karen had been supporting her all along, about the insurance form with its simple message of unconditional love. With careful movements to avoid aggravating her stitches, Alexis reached for Sophia's phone on the bedside table. It was nearly 11 p.m., late, but maybe not too late. She typed out a simple text message to her mother. "I got your note. Thank you for being there today. And thank you for Maya. I'm sorry, Mom. Can we talk tomorrow?" She pressed send before she could second-guess herself, then settled back against the pillows. Outside her window, the Boston skyline twinkled against the night sky, each light a reminder of the countless lives intersecting in the sprawling city, some connected by blood, others by choice, all navigating the complex web of human relationships. In her Providence apartment 40 miles away, Karen Matthews received a text message that would change the trajectory of their fractured relationship. 6 simple words that bridged the silence of 8 months. "Can we talk tomorrow?" Karen Matthews gripped her steering wheel, navigating the morning traffic on I-95 with practiced precision. She'd barely slept after receiving Alexis's text, her mind racing with possibilities and rehearsed conversations. Now, as the Boston skyline emerged through her windshield, nervous energy hummed through her veins. She'd taken another day off work, something she rarely did, even when sick. Her boss had been surprisingly understanding when she'd explained the situation. "Family comes first, Karen. We'll manage." The hospital parking garage was busier this morning. Karen found a spot on the 3rd level, checked her appearance in the rearview mirror, and gathered her courage along with her purse. The small duffel bag on the passenger seat contained items she'd packed at 5 a.m. Alexis's favorite sweater, her childhood stuffed rabbit, hidden at the bottom just in case, and homemade lemon cookies in a Tupperware container. The elevator seemed to crawl between floors. Karen checked her watch, 9:17 a.m. Visiting hours had started at 9 man. She'd texted Alexis that she was on her way, receiving only a thumbs-up emoji in response. Better than nothing, but hardly informative. Room 327 had its door partially open. Karen paused outside, took a steadying breath, and knocked gently. "Come in!" Alexis called. Karen stepped into the room, immediately struck by how much better her daughter looked. Some color had returned to Alexis's cheeks, and her hair was brushed, pulled back in a loose bun. She was sitting up in bed, a hospital breakfast tray pushed to the side. "Hi, Mom," Alexis said, her voice quiet but steady. "Hi, sweetheart." Karen remained by the door, uncertain of her welcome. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Still sore, but the doctor says I'm healing well." Alexis gestured to the visitor's chair. "You can sit down, you know." Karen moved forward, setting the duffel bag on the floor before taking the seat. A beat of awkward silence stretched between them. "I brought you some things from home," Karen said, unzipping the bag. "Your grey cardigan, some toiletries, and cookies." Alexis's eyes softened at the mention of cookies. "Lemon?" Karen nodded, pulling out the container. "Of course." It was such a small thing, knowing her daughter's favorite cookie, but the recognition that flashed across Alexis's face made Karen's heart clench. She handed over the container, watching as Alexis opened it and breathed in the citrusy scent. "Thanks," Alexis said, taking a cookie. She broke it in half, offering a piece to Karen, a childhood habit, the sharing of treats, that made Karen's throat tighten with emotion. They ate in silence for a moment, crumbs falling onto the hospital blanket. Then Alexis set down her half-eaten cookie. "I talked to Maya last night," she said. Karen nodded, unsurprised. "How is she doing?" "Good. Her new medication is working better." Alexis met her mother's eyes directly. "She told me you've been checking in on her, that you went to her art show." "I did. Her landscapes are getting really impressive." Karen hesitated. "I didn't want her to worry about her health care, especially with her chronic migraines." Alexis looked down at her hands. "All this time, I thought. I assumed when I said those things to you, when I stormed out, that you'd just cut you both off," Karen finished quietly. "I would never do that, Alexis." "I know that now." Alexis's voice cracked slightly. "But I didn't make it easy for you to show me otherwise." Karen reached out tentatively, covering her daughter's hand with her own. When Alexis didn't pull away, relief washed through her. "Sophia told me you lost your job," Karen said gently. "Why didn't you call me?" Alexis's shoulders slumped. "Pride, stubbornness, fear that you'd say, 'I told you so.'" She looked up, eyes glistening. "Would you have?" "No," Karen said firmly. "Never. I just would have helped." A tear slipped down Alexis's cheek. "I've been so stupid, Mom. Trying to make it completely on my own, refusing help, working myself into the ground." She gestured to her abdomen. "Literally making myself sick. The doctor said the appendicitis wasn't your fault." "Maybe not directly," Alexis interrupted, "but the stress, the skipped meals, the exhaustion, it all contributed." She wiped at her eyes. "And the whole time, I had insurance I wasn't using. Medication I wasn't taking because I thought I couldn't afford the copay." Karen squeezed her daughter's hand. "We all make mistakes, sweetheart. This was more than a mistake. It was pride. Stupid, stubborn pride." Alexis took a shaky breath. "Do you remember what our fight was even about?" Karen nodded slowly. "You wanted to leave your stable job at the accounting firm to join that tech startup. I expressed concerns. You said I was being impulsive," Alexis corrected, "that I was throwing away security for a pipe dream." "I was scared for you," Karen admitted, "but I should have supported your decision, not criticized it, and I should have listened to your concerns instead of dismissing them." Alexis gave a humorless laugh. "Turns out you were right about the startup stability." "Being right doesn't matter," Karen said. "Being there for you does. I should have made that clearer." A knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Patel entered, chart in hand. "Good morning, Alexis, Mrs. Matthews." He nodded to them both. I'm here to check your incision and discuss discharge plans. Karen started to stand. I'll step outside. No, Alexis said quickly. Please stay, Mum. The simple request, please stay, hung in the air between them, carrying more weight than its 2 syllables suggested. Karen settled back into her chair, warmth spreading through her chest. Dr. Patel examined the incision site, asked about pain levels, and reviewed care instructions. You're healing nicely. I think we can discharge you this afternoon, but you'll need someone to stay with you for at least the next 48 hours. She'll stay with me, Karen said automatically, then glanced at Alexis. If that's what you want. Alexis hesitated only briefly before nodding. Yes, that would be good. After the doctor left, Karen helped Alexis gather her few belongings, storing them in the duffel bag alongside the items she'd brought from home. As she folded a hospital gown, a notification chimed on her phone. Everything okay? Alexis asked. Karen checked the message, then smiled. It's Maya. She wants to know if she can come visit you at home tomorrow. You two text regularly? Alexis asked, surprise evident in her voice. Every week or so, Karen confirmed, sometimes more often when she has medical appointments. She glanced up from her phone. Is it okay if she visits? Of course, Alexis said. Then more hesitantly, maybe we could all have dinner together like we used to. The simple suggestion, a family dinner, the 3 of them together again, made Karen's eyes sting with unexpected tears. I'd like that very much. As they continued preparing for discharge, the conversation flowed more naturally. They discussed practical matters, Karen's guest room, medication schedules, what groceries they would need. And gradually, the 8-month gap in their relationship began to narrow. Mom? Alexis said as they waited for the final paperwork. Thank you for being here yesterday, even when I pretended not to see you. Karen smiled softly. I'll always be here, Alexis, whether you see me or not. Outside the hospital window, the afternoon sun illuminated the Boston skyline, casting long shadows that stretched toward Providence, bridging the physical distance between Alexis's life and Karen's, just as their conversation was bridging the emotional one. On the bedside table, the insurance form with Karen's handwritten note lay folded beside Alexis's discharge papers, a paper reminder of the invisible connections that had remained intact, even when words and pride had failed them both. The drive from Boston to Providence unwound, like a conversation finding its rhythm, initially careful and measured, then gradually easing into something more natural. Karen kept the radio low, a soft backdrop to their tentative exchanges. Alexis reclined her seat slightly, one hand resting protectively over her bandaged abdomen whenever they hit a rough patch of highway. You okay? Karen asked after a particularly jarring stretch of construction. I'm fine, Alexis assured her, adjusting her position. Just feels weird to be going back to your place, our old place. Karen kept her eyes on the road. It's still your home too, you know. Your room is exactly as you left it. You didn't convert it to a home gym or crafting studio, Alexis asked with a small smile. Are you kidding? I'm still using the living room floor for yoga and the kitchen table for any project larger than a greeting card. Karen signaled for their exit, although I did vacuum in there occasionally. Revolutionary, Alexis teased, and for a moment, the familiar rhythm of their banter made the past 8 months seem less vast. They pulled into the driveway of the modest colonial house where Alexis had grown up. The blue shutters needed repainting, and the hydrangeas were overgrown, but the sight stirred something deep in Alexis's chest. She hadn't allowed herself to miss this place, this sense of belonging. Home, sweet home, Karen said, cutting the engine. Let's get you settled before the pain medication wears off. Inside, the house smelled like lemon furniture polish and the faint, lingering scent of the cinnamon candles Karen burned during colder months. Alexis paused in the entryway, suddenly overwhelmed by the familiar family photos lining the hallway. Her high school graduation, a beach trip to Cape Cod, her and Maya mugging for the camera at a Red Sox game. I put fresh sheets on your bed, Karen said, carrying the duffel bag, and there's soup warming on the stove for lunch. Alexis followed her mother upstairs, each step requiring concentration. At the doorway to her childhood bedroom, she stopped, taking in the space that had been hers for 18 years before college, the purple walls she'd insisted on in 10th grade, bookshelves crammed with paperbacks and textbooks, the bulletin board still pinned with concert tickets and photos. Karen set down the bag and turned to her. "Need anything else right now?" Alexis shook her head, lowering herself carefully onto the edge of the bed. "Just maybe a minute to absorb." "Of course. I'll go check on the soup." After her mother left, Alexis ran her hand over the familiar quilt, a wedding gift to her parents that had migrated to her bed after the divorce 15 years ago. Everything in this room represented layers of her life. The stuffed animals from childhood, posters from her teenage music obsessions, the academic awards from high school, college textbooks she'd never been able to part with. She opened the nightstand drawer and found her old journal still there, alongside a flashlight and a dog-eared copy of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And at the back of the drawer lay a small velvet pouch, the necklace her father had given her on her 16th birthday, months before he'd moved to Seattle with his new girlfriend. Alexis closed the drawer without touching it. On the bookshelf, a framed photo caught her attention. Her and Maya at their high school graduation, arms around each other's shoulders, faces split with identical grins. Maya had been living with them by then, her father's presence in her life reduced to occasional birthday cards with cash enclosed. Alexis picked up the frame, studying the two 18-year-old girls frozen in time. They'd been so certain about their futures then, Alexis heading to Boston University for accounting, Maya to Massachusetts College of Art and Design. They'd promised to stay close, to be each other's family forever, and her mother had honored that promise even when Alexis herself had faltered. "Soup's ready whenever you are," Karen called from the bottom of the stairs. "Coming," Alexis replied, replacing the photo and carefully standing. She made her way downstairs, holding the railing tightly. In the kitchen, Karen was ladling homemade chicken soup into bowls, the steam rising in fragrant clouds. The kitchen table, where Alexis had done homework, celebrated birthdays, and had her first coffee, was set with placemats and napkins, as if this were any normal lunch rather than a tentative reconciliation. "Not too hot?" Karen asked as Alexis took her first spoonful. "It's perfect," Alexis said truthfully. After weeks of ramen and frozen meals, the rich broth tasted like salvation. "I've missed your cooking," Karen smiled, pleased. "There's plenty more in the freezer. I've been batch cooking on Sundays." They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before Alexis set down her spoon. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Karen nodded, attentive. "Why did you keep paying for Maya's insurance? After our fight, I mean. You could have just kept me on the policy, not her." Karen considered the question, wiping her mouth with a napkin. "Maya has needed consistent medical care since she was 17. She doesn't have family to fall back on. It wasn't her fault that you and I had a disagreement." "But that's a lot of money," Alexis pressed. "The premium for 2 dependents? It's manageable," Karen said simply. "I adjusted my budget, cut back on a few things." Alexis thought about her mother's aging car, the shutters that needed painting, the fact that Karen hadn't taken a real vacation in years. "What things did you cut back on?" Karen shrugged. "Nothing important. My coffee shop habit, some streaming services." Mom?" Alexis said softly. "Be honest with me." Karen sighed. "All right. I postponed some home repairs, cancelled my gym membership, and started doing YouTube workouts instead. Put off replacing my laptop even though it crashes constantly." She looked directly at Alexis. "But none of that matters. What matters is that you and Maya have health care. That's non-negotiable." The simplicity of her mother's priorities made Alexis's throat tighten. While she'd been stubbornly refusing help, Karen had been quietly sacrificing to maintain a safety net that Alexis hadn't even known existed. "I can pay you back," Alexis offered. "Once I find a new job." "That's not why I told you," Karen interrupted gently. "I don't need repayment. I just need you to understand that some connections don't break, even when we think they have." She reached across the table, covering Alexis's hand with her own. You are always my daughter. Maya is family too. That doesn't change because of one argument or 8 months of silence. Alexis blinked back tears, nodding. I understand that now. After lunch, Karen helped Alexis settle on the living room couch with pillows and a blanket. The afternoon stretched before them, 8 months of absence to navigate. Want to watch something? Karen asked, reaching for the remote. Actually, Alexis said, I want to talk about what happened. Really talk about it. Karen set down the remote, giving Alexis her full attention. I'm listening. Alexis took a deep breath. When I told you I was leaving my accounting job for the startup, I wasn't just changing jobs. I was trying to break away from following in your footsteps. Karen's eyebrows rose in surprise. My footsteps? But you chose accounting on your own. I never pushed you toward it. Not directly, Alexis acknowledged. But I grew up watching you build this stable, secure life. Single mom, steady job, responsible with money. I admired that so much. I wanted to make you proud by being just as responsible. You've always made me proud, Karen said. But then I realized I was living your life, not mine. When the startup opportunity came along, creative work, flexible hours, a chance to build something new, it felt like my first real choice. Alexis shifted, wincing as the movement pulled at her stitches. When you questioned it, it felt like you were questioning my independence. Karen was quiet for a moment, absorbing this. I never saw it that way, she finally said. I was worried about the instability. Startups fail all the time, and you had student loans, rent in one of the most expensive cities in the country. I know, your concerns were valid. But, Karen continued, I should have separated my fears from your dreams. I was projecting my own experiences onto you. She smiled ruefully. When you're a single mother for so long, security becomes your religion. Alexis nodded, understanding dawning. And I was so focused on asserting my independence that I couldn't hear the love behind your concerns. We're quite the pair, aren't we? Karen said with a soft laugh. The perfect storm of stubbornness, Alexis agreed. She hesitated, then asked the question that had been lingering since her hospital room revelation. Did you stay in touch with Maya this whole time I was avoiding you? Karen nodded. She called about a month after our fight, worried about her insurance coverage. We started having coffee every few weeks when she came down to Providence to visit her art professor. She looked down at her hands. She never betrayed your confidence, never told me much about your life, just that you were okay. She was protecting both of us, Alexis realized. That's Maya, Karen said with affection, always the peacekeeper. As the afternoon light shifted through the living room windows, they continued talking about Alexis's failed startup experience, about Karen's promotion at the accounting firm, about the small and large events they'd missed in each other's lives. With each story, each shared laugh or sympathetic nod, the gap between them narrowed. Alexis's phone chimed with a text message. It's Maya, she said, reading it. She wants to know if tomorrow night still works for dinner. Absolutely, Karen replied. I'll make that pasta dish she loves. With the sun-dried tomatoes, Alexis asked, her stomach growling despite the soup they'd had for lunch. Is there any other kind? Karen smiled, the familiar warmth of shared memories passing between them. As evening approached, Alexis's energy began to flag, the toll of surgery and emotional reconciliation catching up with her. Karen noticed immediately, mother's intuition still sharp despite their separation. Time for medication and rest, she said, retrieving the prescription bottle from the kitchen. Doctor's orders. Alexis didn't protest, accepting the pill and water with gratitude. Thanks, Mom. Do you want to sleep down here tonight? The stairs might be too much. Alexis considered this, looking around the living room with its comfortable familiarity. No, I want to be in my room. If you'll help me up the stairs? Of course. The journey upstairs was slow, Karen's arms steady around Alexis's waist. In her bedroom, Alexis changed into pajamas while Karen turned down the covers and adjusted the pillows, mothering habits that came as naturally as breathing. All set? Karen asked when Alexis was settled in bed. Almost. Alexis patted the edge of the mattress. Sit for a minute. Karen sat, brushing a strand of hair from Alexis's forehead in a gesture so familiar it made Alexis's chest ache. "What is it, sweetheart?" "I need to tell you something important," Alexis said, her voice suddenly serious. "These past 8 months without you, they've been the loneliest of my life." Karen's eyes filled with tears. "Mine too. Even with friends, roommates, colleagues all around me, there was this empty space where you should have been." Alexis took her mother's hand. "I'm so sorry I shut you out, that I made you into the villain in my independence story. And I'm sorry I didn't find a better way to support your dreams while still expressing my concerns," Karen replied, squeezing Alexis's hand. "We both could have handled things differently." "I'd like to come home," Alexis said quietly. "Not just for recovery. My lease in Boston is up next month and honestly I can't afford to renew it. I thought maybe I could move back here while I job hunt, save some money." She trailed off, uncertain. The smile that bloomed across Karen's face was answer enough. "I would love nothing more." "I'll contribute to expenses," Alexis insisted, "and I'm thinking of looking for jobs here in Providence, not just Boston. Maybe it's time to come home for real." Karen nodded, too moved to speak for a moment. When she found her voice again, it was steady with certainty. "Your home is here whenever you need it, Alexis. Always has been, always will be." Later, after Karen had gone downstairs to make evening tea, Alexis lay in her childhood bed, staring at the familiar ceiling. The day had unfolded in ways she couldn't have imagined yesterday, from the sterile hospital room to this cocoon of belonging. Her phone buzzed with another text from Maya. "Can't wait to see you both tomorrow. It's been too long since we were all together." Alexis smiled, typing back, "Mom's making the pasta, and we have a lot to talk about." She set her phone aside and closed her eyes, listening to the comforting sounds of her mother moving about downstairs. Cabinet doors opening and closing, the kettle whistling, spoons clinking against mugs. The familiar symphony of home. The pain in her abdomen had faded to a dull throb, manageable now with medication and rest. But something else had eased too, a tightness in her chest that had been her constant companion for 8 months, the ache of severed connection now soothed by the beginnings of repair. Tomorrow, Maya would join them, completing their small family circle. There would be pasta and laughter, shared memories and new stories. There would be plans to make and wounds still healing, both physical and emotional. But tonight Alexis drifted towards sleep with the certainty that some insurance policies went far beyond medical coverage. Some protected against life's harsher realities, with premiums paid in forgiveness, in reaching out across silence, in leaving doors unlocked and lights on to guide the way home. Downstairs, Karen prepared 2 mugs of chamomile tea, adding honey to Alexis's the way she always had. Some habits, like some loves, remained unchanged by time or distance. As she carried the mugs upstairs, she paused at the threshold of her daughter's room, taking in the sight of Alexis, already asleep, face relaxed and peaceful for the first time since the hospital. Karen set the tea on the nightstand, pulled the blanket higher around her daughter's shoulders, and whispered what she had whispered every night for 18 years before Alexis had left for college. "Sweet dreams, my love. I'll be here when you wake." Morning light filtered through the curtains, painting Alexis's childhood room in warm stripes of gold. She woke slowly, momentarily disoriented by the familiar yet foreign surroundings. The events of yesterday came rushing back, the hospital discharge, the drive to Providence, the conversations that had begun, bridging 8 months of silence. She reached for her phone, 8:27 a.m. She'd slept nearly 12 hours, her body demanding recovery time. A text from Maya confirmed dinner plans for 6:00 p.m., followed by several well wishes from co-workers at the startup who'd finally learned about her appendectomy. The house was quiet, but the scent of coffee drifted upstairs. Alexis carefully swung her legs over the side of the bed, testing her strength. The incision site throbbed dully, but the sharp pain of yesterday had subsided to a manageable ache. She pulled on her robe and made her way downstairs, one hand on the railing. In the kitchen, she found a note propped against the coffee pot. Had to run to the office for an emergency client meeting. Back by noon. Breakfast in the fridge. Take your medication. Love. Mom Alexis smiled at the instructions, so typically her mother, practical care paired with unwavering affection. She poured coffee into her favorite mug, still in the same cabinet, right where it had always been, and opened the refrigerator to find a covered plate of cut fruit and a yogurt parfait. As she ate, Alexis surveyed the kitchen. Little had changed in the 8 months since she'd stormed out of this house, vowing to prove her independence. The same faded curtains framed the window above the sink. The same collection of magnets cluttered the refrigerator door. Souvenirs from family trips, a Boston University logo, a photo of her and Maya at their high school graduation. One new addition caught her eye, a calendar hanging beside the refrigerator, each day meticulously noted in her mother's handwriting. Alexis moved closer, coffee mug in hand, and scanned the entries for the current month. Most were predictable: work meetings, book club, yoga class. But there, marked every third Thursday, coffee with Maya, 4 p.m., and on the 15th of each month, insurance premium due. These simple notations, evidence of her mother's consistent presence in Maya's life, her unwavering commitment to their care, made Alexis's throat tighten with emotion. She returned to the table, scrolling through her phone as she finished breakfast. Her savings account balance stared back at her. 1,247.83. Not enough for another month's rent in Boston, let alone a security deposit on a new place. The severance package from the startup had barely covered 2 months of expenses, and freelance graphic design work had proven less lucrative than she'd hoped. Alexis opened her job search app, updating her status to include Providence in her location preferences. The thought of moving back home, which would have seemed like failure a week ago, now felt like the most logical step forward. Not a retreat, but a strategic regrouping. After breakfast, she settled on the living room couch with her laptop, determined to be productive despite her recovery status. She updated her resume, drafted cover letters, and searched job boards for positions in both Boston and Providence. By the time she heard her mother's car in the driveway shortly after noon, she had applied for 3 jobs and bookmarked a dozen more. "You're up," Karen said, entering with a grocery bag in each arm. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Alexis said, closing her laptop. "Sore, but functional. How was your emergency meeting?" "Client tax audit. All resolved now." Karen set the bags on the coffee table. "I stopped by the market for tonight's dinner and—" She pulled out a paper bag with a familiar logo. "I grabbed lunch from Antonio's." "You didn't," Alexis said, eyes widening at the sight of her favorite local sandwich shop. "Turkey club on sourdough with extra pickles, no tomato," Karen confirmed, unpacking the sandwiches. "Some cravings never change." They ate lunch while watching a cooking competition show, falling into the comfortable rhythm they'd established over years of shared meals. When they finished, Karen gathered the wrappers and stood. "Maya texted that she might come a little early to help with dinner," she said. "Around 5:30. Alexis nodded. "That sounds great. I've been thinking about something." Karen sat back down, giving her daughter her full attention. "What is it?" "I want to move back home," Alexis said, the words coming more easily than expected. "My lease in Boston is up in 3 weeks, and financially, it makes sense to regroup here while I job hunt." Instead of the victorious "I told you so" that Alexis had feared during their months of estrangement, Karen's expression showed only genuine support. "Your room is yours for as long as you need it, and Providence has a growing design industry. You might find something perfect right here." I've already started looking," Alexis admitted, gesturing to her laptop. "There are a few promising leads." "Whatever you decide, I'm here to support you," Karen said. "Whether that means helping with rent while you stay in Boston or welcoming you back home." The unconditional nature of the offer, support without judgment, assistance without strings, made Alexis realize how much she'd misjudged her mother's motivations during their fight. What she'd interpreted as controlling had simply been care. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything." The afternoon passed in companionable activity. Karen prepared the pasta sauce for dinner, filling the house with the aroma of garlic and herbs, while Alexis rested and handled a few work emails. At 4:30, Alexis took a careful shower, mindful of her incision, and changed into fresh clothes, a soft sweater and leggings that wouldn't press against her healing abdomen. The doorbell rang promptly at 5:28 p.m. From her position on the couch, Alexis heard her mother's warm greeting and Maya's familiar laugh, a sound that had been part of this household symphony for over a decade. Maya appeared in the living room doorway, a bouquet of daisies in one hand and a gift bag in the other. Her dark curls were shorter than Alexis remembered, cut into a stylish bob that framed her face beautifully. "There she is," Maya said, her voice warm with affection. "The appendix-free wonder." Alexis stood carefully, accepting Maya's gentle hug. "Thanks for coming." "Are you kidding? Wild horses couldn't keep me away." Maya presented the flowers. "For the house." Then she handed over the gift bag. "And this is for you." Inside, Alexis found a sketchbook and a set of professional colored pencils. "What's this for?" "Hospital recovery is boring," Maya said with a shrug. "Thought you might want to get back to drawing. You used to be so good at it." The thoughtful gift, remembering a hobby Alexis had abandoned years ago during college, touched her deeply. "Thank you, I haven't drawn in ages." "Maybe it's time to start again," Maya suggested. "Sometimes we need to reconnect with parts of ourselves we've left behind." The observation felt pointed, though Maya's tone remained light. Alexis nodded, understanding the broader application of her friend's words. In the kitchen, Karen was putting the finishing touches on dinner, her famous pasta with sun-dried tomatoes, spinach, and goat cheese. Maya immediately fell into the familiar role of assistant, setting the table while chatting about her latest art commission. "So now, this law firm wants 6 paintings for their new office by September," she was saying as she laid out napkins. "Biggest order I've had yet." "That's amazing," Karen said proudly. "Your persistence is paying off." "Speaking of which," Maya continued, giving Alexis a significant look, "guess who finally went to that migraine specialist you recommended?" Karen turned from the stove. "You did? What did they say?" "New medication, new diet restrictions, and this is the big one. They found a link to my sinus issues that no one else caught." Maya's expression turned serious. "If I hadn't had insurance, I never would have gone. It was 3 specialist visits and an MRI. The implications hung in the air between them. Without Karen maintaining Maya's insurance coverage, this medical breakthrough might never have happened. "I'm so glad you went," Karen said simply, without emphasizing her role. "Me too," Alexis added, the weight of what might have been lost settling on her shoulders. They carried the food to the dining room table, the same table where they'd shared countless meals during Maya's teenage years living with them. As they settled into their usual seats, Karen at the head, Alexis and Maya across from each other, the familiarity of the arrangement brought a lump to Alexis's throat. "This feels right," she said softly. "The 3 of us, together again." Maya raised her water glass. "To family, the one we make, not just the one we're born with." "To family," Karen and Alexis echoed, clinking glasses. As they ate, conversation flowed easily between them, filling in the gaps of the past 8 months. Maya described her growing art business, her new apartment in Cranston, her ongoing struggle with migraines that was finally showing improvement. Karen shared office stories, book club anecdotes, and her recent foray into container gardening. Alexis found herself relaxing into the exchange, the familiar rhythm of their 3-way dynamic soothing something deep inside her. These women knew her, truly knew her, in ways her Boston friends never had, despite her efforts to build a new life there. "So," Maya said during a lull in conversation, twirling pasta around her fork, "are you going to tell her about the envelope, or should I?" Karen looked between them, eyebrows raised. "Envelope?" Maya gave Alexis an encouraging nod. "Your turn." Alexis set down her fork, suddenly nervous. I actually have something for you, Mom. It's upstairs in my bag. I was going to wait until after dinner, but I'll get it." Maya offered, standing before Alexis could protest. You shouldn't be climbing stairs more than necessary. No. While Maya went upstairs, Karen looked at Alexis questioningly. What's this about? Just wait, Alexis said, fidgeting with her napkin. Maya returned with a large manila envelope, slightly wrinkled from being packed in Alexis's hospital bag. She handed it to Alexis, who took a deep breath before passing it to her mother. I've been working on this for the past month, she explained as Karen opened the envelope. Ever since the startup laid me off. Karen pulled out several professionally printed brochures, a business card, and a comprehensive marketing plan. The brochures featured Matthew's accounting services with a sleek, modern logo that incorporated elements of both stability and growth. What is this? Karen asked, leafing through the materials. Your firm has been talking about expanding, targeting younger clients, modernizing your approach, Alexis said. You've mentioned it for years, but never had the time or resources to implement it. Karen nodded slowly. That's true, but I designed a complete rebranding and digital marketing strategy, Alexis continued. Everything from logo redesign to social media planning to client outreach programs. She pointed to specific sections in the marketing plan. I've been freelancing in design, but my accounting background gives me unique insight into how to position financial services. Maya grinned proudly. Show her the best part. Alexis flipped to the last page of the proposal, where a draft email to clients introduced a new position at the firm, Director of Marketing and Client Relations. I know it's presumptuous, Alexis said quickly, watching her mother's expression. And maybe the firm isn't ready for this, or maybe you don't want to work together. But I thought, it's brilliant, Karen interrupted, her eyes shining as she examined the materials more closely. The partners have been discussing this exact issue at every quarterly meeting. We have the client base, the expertise, but our image is stuck in the last decade. You're not just saying that? Alexis asked cautiously. Karen looked up, her expression serious. Alexis, this is exactly what the firm needs, and this position, combining accounting knowledge with creative skills, it's perfect for you. I'd need to present it to the partners, of course, but you think they might go for it? Alexis couldn't keep the hope from her voice. I know they will, Karen said confidently. They've already approved the budget for a marketing consultant. Having someone in-house who already understands our business would be far more valuable. Maya raised her glass again. To the newest employee of Matthew's Accounting. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Alexis laughed, though her heart raced with possibility. There are interviews, approvals, details, Maya dismissed with a wave. The important thing is that you found a way to combine both worlds, the stability you were raised with and the creativity you've been pursuing. Karen reached across the table, taking Alexis's hand. I'm so proud of you for thinking of this. Not just the business aspect, but finding a path that honors all parts of who you are. I had a good example, Alexis said softly. Someone who showed me that security and passion aren't mutually exclusive. The moments stretched between them, years of love and misunderstanding, support and rebellion, all converging in a new understanding. After dinner, they moved to the living room with dessert, Karen's homemade apple crisp with vanilla ice cream. Alexis sat carefully on the couch, still mindful of her healing incision. I have something to confess, Maya said, setting her dessert bowl on the coffee table. I've been keeping a secret from both of you. Karen and Alexis exchanged curious glances. I've been accepted to the Rhode Island School of Design's master's program, Maya announced. Full scholarship plus a teaching assistantship. Maya, Karen exclaimed, that's incredible. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Alexis asked. Maya looked down, suddenly shy. I just found out last week, and I was waiting until we were all together again. She looked between them. It didn't feel right celebrating without both of you. The implication was clear. Despite maintaining separate relationships with both of them during the estrangement, Maya had felt the absence of their threesome deeply. Well, we're together now, Karen said firmly, and this calls for a proper celebration. She disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a bottle of sparkling cider and 3 glasses. "Non-alcoholic for the patient," she explained, pouring. They toasted Maya's achievement, then Alexis's marketing proposal, then Karen's recent promotion to senior partner, celebrations that had accumulated during their months apart. As the evening deepened into night, Maya helped Karen clear the dishes, while Alexis rested on the couch. Through the dining room archway, Alexis watched the two of them working in tandem, Maya washing, Karen drying, their conversation punctuated by comfortable laughter. The scene transported her back to high school evenings when this had been their daily routine. Maya had moved in with them during junior year, after one too many nights sleeping on their couch, when her father failed to return home. What had begun as temporary assistance had evolved into a permanent arrangement, transforming their household from mother-daughter to something more expansive. Karen had never formalized the arrangement with adoption papers. Maya was already 17 by then, but she had done something equally significant. Added her to the family insurance policy, claimed her as a dependent on tax forms, attended parent-teacher conferences alongside Alexis's. In every way that mattered, Karen had mothered them both. Watching them now, Alexis felt a profound gratitude wash over her. Despite her best efforts to sever connections, to stand completely on her own, the ties that bound them had proven resilient. Her mother's quiet consistency, maintaining Maya's insurance, preserving Alexis's room, keeping space for both of them in her life, had created a foundation that remained solid even when Alexis had tried to dismantle it. Later, after Maya had gone home with promises to return for Sunday brunch, Alexis and Karen sat together on the porch swing, wrapped in light blankets against the spring evening chill. The neighborhood was quiet, just the occasional car passing and distant sounds of children being called in for the night. "Thank you for dinner," Alexis said, gently pushing the swing with one foot. "For everything, really." Karen smiled, her profile softened by the porch light. "It's what mothers do." "Not all mothers," Alexis corrected gently. "You went above and beyond. For me, for Maya, for both of us, even when I made it difficult." "Love isn't conditional, Alexis," Karen said simply. "It doesn't disappear because of disagreements or distance." They swung in silence for a moment, the rhythmic creaking of the chains soothing. "I've been thinking about the insurance," Alexis said finally, "about what it really means." Karen turned to her, questioning. "Insurance is about protection, right? About having a safety net when things go wrong." Alexis looked out at the familiar street where she'd learned to ride a bike, where she'd waited for school buses, where she'd said tearful goodbyes when leaving for college. "But it's also about faith in the future. You pay premiums for years, decades even, for something you hope never happens." Karen nodded, understanding. "You never stopped paying those premiums for us. Literal insurance, yes, but also the emotional kind. You kept my room ready. You stayed in Maya's life. You maintained the possibility of reconciliation even when I gave you every reason to give up." "I could never give up on you," Karen said softly. "Either of you." "I know that now," Alexis acknowledged. "And I want you to know that I'm ready to invest in our relationship too, not just take from it." Karen squeezed her hand. "That's all I've ever wanted." The porch swing continued its gentle motion, carrying them back and forth through the evening air. In the distance, a siren wailed briefly before fading into silence. A neighbor's porch light flickered on, then off again. "The marketing position," Karen said after a while. "Even if the partners approve it immediately, the salary would be entry-level at first. Are you sure you want to leave Boston, your life there?" Alexis considered the question seriously. "My life in Boston was what I thought I should want. Independence at any cost, proving myself on my own terms. But I've learned something important these past few days." "What's that?" "Independence doesn't have to mean isolation. Accepting help isn't the same as admitting failure." Alexis leaned slightly against her mother's shoulder. "And sometimes coming home isn't a step backward, it's a step toward who you're meant to become." Karen rested her head gently against Alexis's. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher," Alexis replied, even when I wasn't paying attention to the lessons. Above them, stars emerged one by one in the darkening sky, the same stars that had witnessed their separations and reunions, their conflicts and reconciliations. The same stars that would watch over whatever came next. Job interviews and doctor's appointments, Sunday brunches and holiday celebrations, all the ordinary moments that, strung together, created the extraordinary fabric of family. In the morning, Karen would drive Alexis to her follow-up appointment at the local clinic. They would stop for coffee afterward, perhaps browse the small bookstore downtown that had been their Saturday ritual for years. In the afternoon, Alexis would send her marketing proposal to Karen's email for proper presentation to the partners. Maya would come over with Thai takeout and her portfolio for RIS-D, seeking their opinions on which pieces to highlight. Life would resume its forward motion, altered now by newfound understanding, by bridges rebuilt stronger than before. But for this moment, on the porch swing of the house that had sheltered so many versions of themselves, they simply existed together in the quiet certainty that some insurance policies, the most important ones, never expired, the ones written not on paper, but on the heart.